So it's 100% decentralized and non-censorable. So that's all you need is to uh, have a browser and download the code. You don't need any servers or anything anywhere, and everything's just on chain, which I'm really excited about.
Excellent. Now, clearly, I must have misspoke, and I don't even know what the difference is. So, can you educate us? What's the difference between what I said with atomic swapping and an AMM?
ability to try it myself from the code, but I guess I will wait until there is a user experience interface.
Yeah, it's pretty boring unless are more of a nerd, because it's pretty much just command line right now. That like it's a command line interface to do the swaps. So, but we have now 3 engineers working purely on the interface, so it should be coming along pretty quickly.
Wow, that's amazing. Can't wait to see it. Are they the same with the AlgoDex or nothing in common? Like no common people between AlgoDex and your team?
Nope. Algodex is Alex and his team, and they're completely different types of dexes.
And what is the difference between yours and theirs?
Sure. Are we ready to dig down deep into? Is there enough people on here now, you think?
We can wait a little bit, but I think what I was interested, before to go into the details, if you want to wait a little bit, like how can we make a DEX more of a game, like to gamify a DEX? Like, have you thought about some ways to make it like a fun thing, like more interactive?
You know what's fun? Making money. I think that's just the whole idea of like, being able to provide liquidity, receive fees, potentially receive some other token, who knows? But the idea is that there's really, I don't think that there's actually a need to add gamification to DEXs, at least at this stage, because what it does is it provides a way, it provides both utility and a way to add to the system or to the entire ecosystem in a decentralized way. One thing I'll actually start talking about right now is that what is important in an exchange or a decentralized exchange. And the most, like in my opinion, this is all of course my opinion, which you can take it for what it's worth, is that to me the most important thing about a decentralized exchange is that it's 100% decentralized, because when you go from if you centralize any part of a decentralized exchange, you then become responsible for the exchange.
Yeah.
If you make it so that the contracts can be upgraded, if you make it so that you have a server that is required for pool discoverability, if you do any of these things, you are now creating a centralized piece to the overall decentralized exchange. It's of course not an all or nothing type of thing, but as far as regulation is concerned, it is, because if there is a centralized piece, you are now responsible and you are able to be regulated and should be regulated. But depending on where you are globally, but a fully decentralized exchange that is completely works on the protocol itself, it's a completely different story. Because you can't really regulate it because it's owned by the network, it's owned by the users. They're working with each other in a peer-to-peer basis, and there isn't a centralized provider to provide anything.
So does it mean that we cannot really upgrade the DEX and we have to have it like with the same function for many years to have it completely decentralized? Because as soon as a developer improves the DEX, I guess it's kind of decentralized. We have this person, right. We have the financing, right?
100%. So if a developer has a key to upgrade a contract and it's not any type of DAO or built into the actual protocol itself or anything of that sort, it is a centralized exchange, because the developer would have the ability to upgrade the contract to do whatever he wants. So we believe at Reach that especially in the near term, until there's actually a more clear, regulated, understood governance, that contracts shouldn't be upgradable, because they are pretty much centralized at that point. So
I love that.
But that's I believe that there is an answer in the future. Be able to harness the upgradability of contracts, but I don't know the answer. Maybe there are people out there smarter than me that have a better thought and belief behind that.
So, because that's the point with like any kind of currency, like Ethereum and Bitcoin and like all blockchains, like especially Bitcoin, you still have to have a foundation to finance the developers and to decide on the different like improvements of the blockchain itself. So if we can have a DEX that is completely detached from any particular developer, that would be incredible. Like that would be
I
indestructible.
mean, this is how Uniswap was created. So Uniswap V1, V2, V3. The reason why there are different exchanges is because they are non-upgradable. And in my opinion, if I really want to actually give my personal opinion, is that I don't know if I'll ever like upgradable contracts. I see the benefit. I see that why they should exist. But my issue is that any type of extra complication when it comes to governance or when it comes to contracts or levers that you create, you are adding potential attack vectors, and when you add a potential attack vectors, that makes things more risky. So I believe my personal belief is non-upgradable contracts are the way to go, and what needs to improve is better migration processes, where that each individual has the ability to stay or to go and make that process as easy as possible, so that as the protocols mature and they change over time, the users have the ability to adopt those new features rather than forced into it.
Wow. So yeah, that really protects all from yeah, everybody from the legal issues with the DEX, because I think governments will come hard on DEXs, right?
I mean, I'm not a lawyer by any means, so my legal opinion doesn't matter. But my belief personally, like if I'm a user of a DEX or any application really, and a new major feature comes out that requires change into the actual protocol, I don't necessarily want to be forced into using that new protocol right away, especially if there's tons of my money is actually baking to it. I'd much rather use the current one, maybe the new protocol used over time, and allow me as a user to migrate my assets over when I feel comfortable. And of course, if anybody has a thoughts or would like to actually, challenge me on that, because I know there are a lot of opinions where upgradable contracts are, there are benefits to it. So I just don't think that the benefits outweigh the cons of upgradable contracts existing.
Yeah. Anyone wants to react to that? Like that's a very strong decision to take at the beginning of project. So that is very interesting for everybody. Kwame, for instance, you were working on some DeFi project. Can you tell us what was your thought process around this question?
Crypto nerd, you got a opinion on it? Anybody? I was waiting for Kwame to go live.
I'm gonna step in.
There we go.
For coming from the ETH world, upgradable proxy contracts are kind of a thing. I would. This is something that I would personally, from my understanding, I like what the ability to have a proxy contract and be able to upgrade protocol need be. Going out and thinking that you're going to design a perfect protocol on the first go. I mean, I guess some teams can do that. Personally, I think that you have to take a lot of care, especially when you're developing blockchain apps. You write it's up there. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
I mean, I agree with you, Kwame, that nobody's gonna make the perfect contract, or the perfect protocol, but that doesn't mean that you can't ever upgrade. I mean, it means you can't upgrade that specific contract, but you can create new contracts and migrate people over. It's just that, like, to me, upgradable contracts makes things centralized. And even if there is like a committee vote or a multi-sig contract or anything of that sort, you are centralizing the process, at least somewhat. And like in Ethereum, it's actually more mature to be able to actually, they've thought a lot about that out. There's the whole, it's a committee signature that has a delay in it, because if the that gives the actual the participants the ability to veto that, like, the upgrade, things of that sort. But that's actually much more mature. But at the same time, boy, does that make me nervous, because of how hard it is to actually build blockchain, and how hard it is to actually build just without any bugs. Every single type of thing that you add on there that's like this, it adds another attack vector. So I personally, until like we're 20 years down the way and we have a upgradable feature that is so hardened that it is actually trusted as the actual protocol itself, I personally feel more comfortable with non-upgradable contracts. And like I said, my solution to actually make the upgrade easier is to actually build in cleaner, easier upgrade migration paths. And that's one of the features that's actually in Reach, is that in the near future, we're making it so that that if you actually upgrade your contract with Reach and you redeploy, Reach will actually automatically build the migration paths for your users. So that's I'm extremely biased, because this is working in this field, and building actually a solution around it. But that's just my belief, is that I worry about any type of upgradable contracts, proxy contracts, anything of that sort.
Yeah, I love your approach, Chris. That's really interesting, because anyone can get back to the first one if he feels more comfortable with.
But I mean, like, the thing I look at, like, how, like, and this is actually an open question to anybody as far as regulation, because I don't know the answer to that, is that if you built a decentralized exchange and you actually decentralized everything from the discovery of the pools to the actual pools itself, anybody that can create the pools, and anybody can trade, and the contracts are actually upgradable upon a multi-sig, even if it's like a 3-person multi-sig, how can you, like, regulation is going to hit you, because you are now in control of the entire DEX, and it's a centralized process. I mean, I don't know the answer, and I feel...
Yeah, it's a vulnerability. It's a weak point that can be attacked at any time in any country.
But I mean, it's at the same. It's not even about the vulnerability there. It is a centralized protocol, and if a centralized protocol that is an exchange should be regulated like a centralized exchange.
Yeah, and banned in some countries, depending on the asset that is traded on it. It can happen to Algorand and Algodex, and for some countries do not accept certain ASAs.
Right.
Yeah, but I think this kind of like leads to the conclusion that, you're a team, you get funded some money, and you put out this AMM, and then you're not responsible for whatever happens on this protocol. So I think that for some of this stuff here, we're looking at, well, hey, is there the team who's, developing this thing, and they put it up, and, something goes haywire with it. Now, can the team who developed this AMM or this DEX or whatever just wash their hands and walk away and say, hey, you know what? We just put it up there, and, something happened and people lost their money, and we're not held responsible. Like, I don't really see that is an option for a lot of this stuff. So there has to be some protections when we're putting up these protocols as developers. And I think that this is something that is kind of missing from this equation.
Well, I mean, I think that's I agree that there is, responsibility in place, but the other side of that coin is now there's $100 million on this AMM and the contracts are upgradable. What's stopping them, or what's stopping somebody from social engineering one of their accounts and stealing it all?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's a lot of the things that you're bringing up here. I'm not disagreeing with you, and I'm not agreeing. I'm just saying that there's all these other parts that haven't really been, put into place to see that this is kind of the way that we need to go about a lot of this stuff. Like with that last hack that just happened, there's kind of this back and forth between the hacker and the protocol, and people getting their funds back. So I'm just kind of like, thinking of where, like, if we're putting out these protocols and they're totally decentralized and these things are happening, where are some of the responsibilities lying? After that, I guess that's kind of the question I'm popping up here.
I mean, I think the answer is that if it's truly a decentralized exchange, I mean, sadly, that means that the network that is participating is responsible for using it, which is not a good answer. I realize that, but that's the actual truth of it. Is that, and if you want a centralized exchange, you want somebody in charge of it, then you need to actually have a centralized exchange, and you need to have regulation. If you want full decentralization, where the network is truly the ones that actually earn it, that govern it, that police it, then at the end of the day, the original developers aren't the ones responsible, because they are the ones that built it, but the network is actually owned by the individuals. I mean, there is actually a way that you look at it where the correct incentive model is that if the developers are incentivized appropriately, that if the actual value of the actual governance goes down or up or whatever, it's it would hurt the developers because they would lose value. I mean, to me, it feels like incentivizing the network in a way that promotes equilibrium in game theory, and incentivizes the network to prevent any type of hacks is a better way of going at it. Once again, I don't have the answer to it, but to me, that feels like the better answer than centralize it and make somebody responsible.
Hey guys, I think there's probably an opportunity to talk about DAOs in more depth. And Bilal or Chris, one of you, if you want to invite the other Chris from Anthill up to speak, there's probably an opportunity for him to kind of chime in as well. And then a question for you, Kwame, since you've got more experience on the ETH side, and I mean, Chris, you as well, but I had a question proposed to me about Uniswap v3 and how everyone was forced to use the new protocol regardless, right? Thoughts on that? Was that good,
That's
bad?
not true.
That's not true. Okay. So
I mean, if
what happened with Uniswap v3 then?
So Uniswap v2 still exists and people still use it. I mean, you could use it today. You weren't forced to actually upgrade to the new, this is 100% what I was talking about, is that this is the better way of going about it, because Uniswap came out and said, here's now v3. It's up to you to migrate over if you want to. You don't have to. V2 still exists and it still has tons of TVL, but it's up to the end user to decide where it goes. It could be that the person is asking a question more about the whitelisting of tokens on the Uniswap interface, and I can talk about that if that is more of the question.
They didn't clarify, but let's dive into that. That sounds interesting. Okay,
so Uniswap recently came out and said that they were whitelisting or blacklisting token for exactly one of the color listings tokens, because they were deemed a potential security. So people got really upset and said, oh, well, if Uniswap can actually do that, then they are not truly decentralized. They're not censor resistant, which is not true. Because what you really need to understand is that Uniswap, even though it's named, Uniswap is a name for the actual company building it and also the protocol, they are two completely different things. So the protocol at Uniswap itself is a fully decentralized open protocol that anybody can trade or create pools on any type of network or any type of coin they want, because it's permissionless and anybody can do it. Now, the interface that actually communicates with the protocol is a different story, because the interface is a centralized thing. It is a thing that is actually pops up that allows for end users to use the Uniswap protocol, but it is not actually part of the protocol. It's like a way to actually for people to communicate. You as a user have the ability to use the Uniswap protocol with any interface that you want. You could download the Uniswap interface source code, modify it, and be able to access any coin that you want. But the Uniswap interface is something that is deployed by the Uniswap team, and because it's a centralized piece, they have to be worry about regulations and the SEC and everything of that sort, because it is their control and they can actually do it. This does not affect the Uniswap protocol at all, because anybody can still do anything they want. They can only are control over their interface, because they're different things.
I think the end user has enough knowledge to decide right now. Is it easy to decide whether or not they use V2, V3? Like, what's the end user? Do they have enough info? Is it easy to grasp out there, or is it like over a bunch of people's heads?
I mean, you're asking me to have an opinion on other people.
They're using Uniswap already.
I mean, yeah, all right. They got to jump through those hoops just to get there, right?
Yeah, I would say that they probably don't, but at the same time, that's this is actually up to the interfaces to actually provide, or the individuals to actually be able to choose their own adventure. If they want a more guided, centralized approach, the Uniswap protocol allows for that. Coinbase could hook up to the Uniswap protocol and swap on there if they want, completely with their own interface. Like, they could regulate, they could hit KYC, they could do whatever they want with it. If a user wants to tinfoil hat and roll their own local interface on their own computer that is completely customized for their wants and needs, they have the ability to. But this is the brilliance of blockchain, is that blockchain has never promised we're going to decentralize all the things forever. What blockchain has promised is that it will decentralize the rails of the future, meaning that it allows for everybody to actually to be part of the same community, have the same chance. But my grandma, she doesn't want to download the source files from GitHub and run it locally on a local web server that's completely customized to her. She wants to not even have to really care about her wallet or anything of that sort. She doesn't want to care anybody. She just wants to actually use something, and that is fine, because as long as they're actually working on the same network, this allows for companies to provide services that their users want, as long as the foundation is the decentralized part. That's what blockchain is promising.
Got it. Let's shift gears for just a minute out of some of the more technical aspects, and I want to go like big picture and ask you some like real world use cases, because I feel like a lot of times like we as investors, we get involved in and it's just the Robinhoods, right? Robinhood made news this week because they released their quarterly earnings, and half of their income came from crypto trades, and we end up talking a lot in this group about dexes and trades and swaps and really a bunch of that, but not a whole lot about use cases. And for me, use cases are when cryptocurrency is used as a currency, to buy goods and services and that sort of thing. And the second largest mortgage company in America just announced that they're going to start accepting cryptocurrency in various forms. They didn't say Algorand, but I made a few phone calls. I pulled a few strings, and it completely ignored me. But besides that, if more companies make this type of announcement like Tesla did a little while ago, is that good for the community when there's use cases besides just speculation and trading and things of that nature? And it's a very general question, not particularly in your expertise area. So maybe just like personal opinion. What do you think?
That's a hilarious question. That you asked, does utility provide value to blockchain?
Right.
Yes. I mean, of course it does. That's why we're not doing this as a big, huge, elaborate gambling scheme. I mean, at least for me, the reason why I live, breathe, and die blockchain has nothing to do with hype cycles. Like I could care less what any protocols are actually promising or what is future. I care what they can do today, which is why I'm actually a huge fan of Algorand, is because Algorand is one of the best, if not the best, at talking about what it currently can do and not talking about what it will do one day when the stars align. So I personally, use cases are the only thing that actually matter to me, which is why why I spent everything I have to actually build Reach, because what it does is has nothing. It doesn't have a token. It doesn't have anything other than tools to help developers build things easier, faster, safer. And that is what is important about blockchain, is actual use cases. It is taking this crazy idea of a trustless world computer and putting it in the hands of innovative, super smart people to actually build the future.
Well said. I think that there's a double-edged sword with early adoption use cases, and we need more that are sort of mainstream here, because early adoption tends to be kind of those seedier, places where you want to spend anonymously. So porn and gambling, right? So we like early use cases are, okay, we got some OnlyFans, we got Pornhub, we got even the Smile Coin, and we had Smile Coin on here last week. But I mean, essentially, that's DraftKings with blockchain, with some tokens, and I mean it does more than that. Don't get me wrong, but it's still sort of that side of the business, and like I love those guys. It seems like a fun thing, and I personally use DraftCoins. I haven't used the Grind site or whatever he was talking about last week, but I like Taj, and I like what they're doing. It seems fun, and that's something I might use. But do we run into problems if the adoption comes too much from businesses like that?
How much do you love watching your Netflix?
Yeah, I watch Netflix daily.
Netflix wouldn't exist if it wasn't for porn.
Oh, because people got used to watching like their computer videos, right?
No. It's not about use cases. What it is that the fun thing is that Vice Industries out there are notoriously known for pushing the tech envelope of everything, because they're forced to actually kind of always kind of push the envelope and try to do the next great thing. And like, this is a normal thing. You can look at like any really industry, and porn or gambling or something is leading the way in the tech side of things. So I sure, yeah, the Vice Industries are using or were using crypto early, but now that's just because they were forced to, and now everybody else is building real things on it. And if you're worried about that, you should just turn your computer off right now, because like I said, so many things were actually exist or as good as they are today because of that Vice Industries.
Yeah, kind of leads the way, and then e-commerce was adopted, Silk Road, and then expands, right? They come up with protocols and what have you, and make it a little more acceptable.
Yeah, because they have to.
Yeah, to me, for the use case, I really want to go to the basics of what humans do, and humans sell and eat food, and that's why I also joined Authentium, because I think the supply chain for food and be able to connect consumers to producers directly without any intermediaries, like cutting intermediaries, to me is the best use case we can, one of the most important, to be able to bring wealth at the very basic level, and also identity, like we had this conversation with Chris many times about what is a digital identity and how to build it. And what I think we can do that it can be huge on the blockchain is to build a new type of identity using different type of reputation systems and criteria and qualities and skills that can be attached to each wallet and individual. So the people get attached to his wallet as himself, like to bring politics and to bring many kind of things like management, and there are so many use cases that are real and direct, like that we can think about. Politics and food to me are like very important. I don't know if maybe Chris has thought about that. He can tell us more, or Kwame, or yeah, or Monty. Like, I would love to hear your opinions around those ideas in politics and food.
So Jamie just jumped on as a speaker. I wanted to actually give her the opportunity to ask any questions if she has any before I dive into that.
I just wanted to mention about the porn thing. I think that as we progress, especially like going into the NFT realm, I think a lot of these artworks and so forth are really being more high quality than a little meme with some text. I think we're going to very high quality content. That's where we're going to head to. So I think we don't have too much concern about like, oh, is are people going to post something that's not very great or clean or whatever you want to call it. And as for bylaws statement with reputation, I know I sent a link in the chat room in case people don't know here. I know Twitter, they're building something called Interrupt. So basically it's using a centralized reputation system, and then they would have this reputation on the Ethereum as an address and then send it to other social networks out there. So I think it's definitely like something that people are thinking about building. So that's all I want to say.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you, JB. That's exactly what I was thinking about.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. Like it, yeah. I mean, I think reputation systems are super important, but we also have to realize that when we're working in this world, this decentralized, protocol-driven world, you're actually living in the world, and there are people that have different ideas, different, moral opinion, everything that's than what you do, and that is okay. What you need to do then is you need to actually self-select into the actual where you feel comfortable. You need to make sure that you are part of the groups that you want to be a part of. But the whole idea with everything is that an open network means it is open for everybody to be themselves. And it is up to you as the individual to be where you want to be, just like any individual has the ability to be where they want to be. That's the whole point of the whole decentralized protocols, is that they are censor resistant. I mean, they're censor resistant does not mean that there is no, you can't, what you do on a censor resistant network can't be held against you. I mean, of course, there's repercussions of doing things incorrectly, but the whole idea with a censor resistant open protocol is that some central authority can't make you do something so like that's the idea, is like so things will pop up that will make us feel comfortable, myself feel comfortable, but we have to be able to build systems in place that are also open, that help allow for you to number one, to actually for repercussions to happen, but also so that you are in a comfortable space as well.
We got a couple interesting comments on YouTube. So Juarez says, here's an interesting thought exercise. What if, and I'll extrapolate a little bit on this, what if the first step for a government like the US government to step into blockchain is not through a CBDC? What if it is to convert over an existing agency or batch of data? Because let's face it, the government's got a ton of data and it's not always efficiently managed. What if they were able to take the Social Security Administration, convert that over, put that on blockchain? They could incorporate the identification system Bilal was talking about earlier. And that could be an interesting first use case. If you were given that task, how would you approach that? And does that seem viable?
Yeah, so 100% viable. I think it would be easier to do than actually to build a CBDC. because it's just pure blockchain development at that point. So it depends on what you would want to switch over. If it's, I think like Social Security would be more difficult, because what you're doing there is you're actually dealing with identity. Because Social Security, your Social Security number is actually your human identifier number in the United States, and the so that would be a tougher one to do. But things like the U.S. title, being able to actually put like the titles of houses on the blockchain, that would be a great start.
I'm all about that.
And it would be a much more efficient system that could be given to the public, and I feel like that would save a lot of tax dollars, and also provide a lot of extra functionality to that realm. If you want, if this is something that we can do a better on blockchain all around, title information, things of that sort, do a whole hour on it if you want.
Man, I would love that.
But that would give a huge surveillance tool for the government. That would be incredibly invasive. I wouldn't like my social security number to be given to the government and to tie it to my belongings.
That's already what happens. that's literally what it is.
Yeah, not in France, but that's a bit worrisome.
Yeah, you use your Social Security number to pretty much do anything anything major in the United States.
Wow, I didn't know it was that central.
Mm-hmm. It's tied to your credit score here. It's tied to any property that you own. It's tied to you via your Social Security number. It's the main core of your data here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's kind of creepy a little bit. In France, it's very separated.
Yeah, it's your identity. But yeah, so the next one we'll do will be just like titles, or just ownership in general. And I think because rather than doing like a group, like a big NFT better on blockchain, it'd be probably better to actually be specific to like titles and just like physical item ownership. Yeah, that's probably what it will. Physical item ownership. If you guys.
I lost sound there for a second.
Can you guys hear me now?
There we go. Now you're back.
All right. So what I was saying is we'll probably do a physical item on blockchain. Physical item ownership on blockchain is the next better on blockchain topic. And if you guys don't know what better on blockchain is, Jay and I, my co-founder, we pick an industry, we pick a thing, and then we talk about how blockchain could make that industry better. We talk about how, like, what the actual requirements of it would be, how we would build it, how much time and effort would it take, and we talk about if it's actually truly an investable thing or not.
Could you give us a little teaser about the next one? Like, what did you cover a little bit, and so just to have a task?
Well, you've done 3 or 4 of those, right?
Yeah, we've done 3 so far. The last one we did was the Office Suite. I chose that one purely because I'm like, what is a thing that people would think blockchain wouldn't make it better at all? And so we just talked about that for a while, about how blockchain could actually make the Office Suite better. Jay's on vacation right now, so we don't actually have another one. But we'll probably, I think next week we'll do the physical item ownership.
I think that's great. I interviewed the guys from AlgoFi this last week, and they had a lot of really good ideas about the finance world and blending or bridging traditional finance to DeFi. But they said there's still a lot of roadblocks, and there's a lot of distrust in the industry in general, I think. Chris, when you're dealing with these ideas, do you have to take into account perception? And is that something that the blockchain should work towards? Everybody's got a PR team, but I'm not sure how much that perception from the overall public comes into play.
I think perception just in general, it's less about perception and more about ease of use. I talk about this a lot, is that the thing that actually, whatever the thing is that brings blockchain into mainstream, the major, most important thing is the user experience of it. Blockchain, it can't feel like I'm using something new or something hard. And I feel like people don't really care about blockchain. They care about their lives being better. And that's the perception side of things. So we don't really care about oh no, is my title on the blockchain. People don't care about the technology. They care about how is this making my life better. And if you answer that question, if you make people's lives better, they won't care what technology you use.
I see Jamie agrees 100%. Yeah, I think it should be seamless. So the next evolution is not going to be the Uniswap, right? We made that joke earlier, well, okay, they're already on Uniswap. They must be technically savvy enough to at least get there and use it. But I think you're right. The onboarding process, it's got to be distinctly non-blockchain specific. It's just got to solve a universal problem or something along those lines. And I think a lot of us are stuck in the industry, how can we make this blockchain-ish or blockchain, functional here, when really we got to make it as if it weren't blockchain. Just how do we just make it just better, not blockchain better?
Yeah. If you I say this probably every week, is when somebody comes to me and says I have an idea, and then they say it's X on the blockchain, it's a huge red flag to me, because I don't care that it's on the blockchain. How are you making people's lives better? How can this be a seamless thing that people? When's the last time you heard someone pitch, this is X using NoSQL, or this is X using Postgres, or whatever? Because the technology cannot be the thing that drives the adoption. What drives the adoption is, how are you making my life better?
Yeah, I think that.
I totally agree with that, and this kind of blends onto the whole new situation of merging from Web 2 to Web 3, which is kind of like a blockchain agnostic discussion in its own right.
Yeah, there's a lot of things as far as user experience needs to be figured out, and the issue here is that there needs to be more people in this space that are more understanding and more flexible as far as their thinking goes. Right now, a lot of people in this space are the type of people that are decentralization maximalists, where they're okay, well, whatever we do, I don't really care about the user experience. It's got to be as max decentralized as possible. And I think that I was talking earlier, is that it's important that the rails are decentralized, but the use case on top of it is okay if it is decentralized, because the end user, the majority of the world, isn't want to worry about, I don't know, their mnemonic, where they store it. Is it buried in the backyard somewhere? Is it in their lockbox? They don't want to deal with that. They want to be able to take advantage of the lower overhead, but they don't want it to be more painful.
It's so true. As soon as you mentioned earlier how if blockchain or the underlying tech is what is driving the investment or driving the hype and what it's doing, then you've kind of already lost. The blockchain should just be so abstracted from how users are interacting and engaging with, whether it be content or whatever else. And there was a really cool I think Jamie brought it up about NFTs, and I mean, like with all the hype with NFTs, like she brought up a really like interesting concept of how this whole NFT space has kind of spawned off onto its own thing. And my first thought of an NFT now is artwork. Lofty AI, but they're part of the Algorand space where they're selling, house. You can, fractionalize, an investment in a house. And I know from the investor side, when people are starting to invest in properties with tokenization of these assets, like, is anyone concerned with how, the legal, is some kind of regulation going to be coming onto the space because of how it's kind of spreading out?
I'm concerned about that. I mean, I can't wait until the first actual in-world legal disputes because of ownership of something based off an NFT. Like that's going to set precedence of the future. Really, is like if I own an NFT that says that I own this house and it differs from this ledger that was kept in a basement somewhere, and which ends up winning is going to be super important.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Isn't just a quick question? Isn't Algorand recognized in Italy about as a legal support for in courts? So I'm not sure about that. I think I read something like that. If anyone can confirm.
You're in Italy right now. Just ask someone you're standing next to.
I just did a little bit of research, and there are 2 states. I want to say Montana and it might have been the state you wouldn't have thought of, like Kentucky or something, that had legislation that just went through that recognized smart contracts as legally binding contracts. But Lofty's in like Ohio and Tennessee and Illinois, I think. And I don't know if any of those states have smart contracts as legally binding. And I wonder, you brought up a good point, like, what if the management company decides to sell this property and I'm one of 500 investors in this property and I decide, no, I don't want to sell it. Do I have any legal right to say no? I think probably in the agreement that I signed when I signed up with them, I probably, forgave all, or gave up all of those rights. But it does bring up some interesting ideas, at some point in time, or if somebody passes away, how does that get inherited? What happens to those? There are a lot of questions, and it's still kind of a gray area in my opinion.
I guess that's the beauty of this whole space, that a lot of stuff is kind of, gray to a certain point, where a lot of innovation can be sparked, and a lot of great ideas are not bound to regulation, and like reach in. A lot of other awesome companies that are out there that are innovating in the space are able to do that because there aren't these shackles against the the creativity that they want to put out there. So
I'm just glad it's on Algorand, so there's no forking.
No forking. So one of the things I just realized, like every time I do these, I just assume that people either don't care who I am or don't know who I am. My name's Chris. I'm the CEO of Reach. For everybody that actually is listening on Crypto Nerds YouTube or here, I've been in the blockchain space now full time since early 2017, and I've got a lot of opinions about how blockchain should be.
Yeah, and we love them. We love your opinion, and especially like building the new world of developers for developers, and the new environment for developers that will bring a huge amount of people into blockchain. That's exactly what we need. And we're doing something incredible at the very beginning of Algorand, and Ethereum too. You will bring, I guess, also Cosmos, I heard of Reach. Can you tell us more about that?
Nothing really kind of to really report on, other than Cosmos gave us a grant to build a proof of concept, connecting them to Reach as well. But yeah, nothing to actually new to report yet, because a proof of concept doesn't actually do a full integration. It's more of proving to Cosmos that Reach will work on Cosmos, and if they agree to that, then we will move on to the next steps. Same thing's probably happening with Cardano as well. But we'll see. But one thing I do actually want to talk about is, I just remembered a developer actually sent me a link this morning of a FOMO 3D rewritten in Reach and launched on the Algorand testnet. So it worked. I bought a couple of the tickets for the raffle, and everything that worked. It was pretty awesome.
Chris, I had a question about Cardano. Like, how hard it is? Is it working well? Like, is it possible to build a good bridge for a token between Algorand and Cardano? Do you know someone that has tried and how is it working?
So Cardano doesn't have their VM out yet. So I never talk about things that don't exist yet. It's coming soon, but once it actually is out and it's in production, we'll take a look at it, because I think I've told you all that one of the things that Reach is going to be focused on in the near future is multi-chain interoperability through a generalized state sync. So it is on our list of things to fix about blockchain. So I'll know more about later after we do an integration.
Thank you. Jamie, can you talk about why is it more interesting to have an interoperable language like Reach to use across different platforms? I know you're interested in that kind of like a big improvement like that can facilitate, I guess, a little bit of your work, right?
Yeah, basically what Chris is building is pretty amazing, because you could go basically cross-platform and cross-ecosystem, and as a developer, you just have to pick a language you like, and then go for it. And on top of that, Chris, the Reach link has it's kind of like they have the checks in place. Like he said, every week, developers make mistake. So they really have these kind of security in place. So I think it's really great. So I've been really wanting to check it out.
Thank you, Jamie.
Well, I know Fame has been working, a lot towards, world hunger and food supply. I'm wondering, in your travels and your conversations, have you touched base with many other supply chain projects? Has there been significant progress there? It's a great use case, but I haven't seen a whole lot of movement. It hasn't made a ton of news, right?
Yeah, actually, it has to do with the Authentium partnership. We're working closely now with Authentium, and the Authentium philosophy is to bring the product before any word. So it's I call it the Australian style, like you do it before you talk about it. So we cannot really talk publicly about it, but we are. I can just say that we are in contact in different continents around the world with farmers, and I'm particularly focused on Nigeria, and I will be much more involved from now with farmers across the world, and especially starting with Nigeria, Kenya, and some other countries in South America. My whole idea, if you want, about Fame is I just want to bring fame basically to the people who really deserve it, like either artists or people on the ground doing what really matters in life. So bringing food to the village, bringing education to young kids, and bringing knowledge about how to grow food to save lives. That's what matters to me, and I think that's what That's what that's those people that really deserve to be more in the front page of things like magazines or anything or internet or Twitter. And that's the people I want to talk about, right? And also artists, right? People who really create in any kind of field. That's why I work with Jamie. We're working to build a platform to promote and also to facilitate and to protect artists' work. And I'm very excited of what we are doing with Jamie and with Ascension. And we don't want to talk too much before we bring the product, so we just take our time and we do the work. Um, yeah, it's going amazingly well, and I love to work with Jamie especially. So
You're too kind, Bila. Working with Bilo is great. He has been definitely like, helping the community out. For the platform itself, it's really just a social NFT. That's how I call it. And basically, look for artists and help protect artist works. And basically, it kind of gives everyone a chance to earn money within the platform. As well as, giving fame to each other and helping out as a community.
I think that's a very admirable use of, the technology and these types of, I like that term you use, social NFT. That kind of resonates with me. That's very cool. And that's the way it started out. That's with that in mind is like begin with the end in mind. Kind of speaks volumes. Well, good. Well, we're excited to hear more, but it's kind of the Algorand way, the overall ecosystem. Hey, let's work behind the scenes and then release that information once it's active. And I think Chris said last week, Silicon Valley used to be like move fast and break things, but that doesn't always work with blockchain. And I like projects that are kind of dotted the I's and crossed the T's and came to the table with something that was viable and operational right from the get. So I can appreciate that.
is there any question from anyone here? And Ibu is here. And Bank of Algorand, let's say hi, and anyone has any question.
No questions here. I've Crypto Nerd. You asked me earlier about the difference between like atomic swap and AMM. Is that something you still care to know
Yeah,
about?
that was right before we got interrupted. Huh? We crashed right after that.
Okay, so just a second. My daughter wants me. Just a second. All right, sorry about that. So an atomic swap is more of like a building block of a smart contract or an interaction. An atomic swap is like when you take two assets and you exchange the assets in the within the actual transaction itself. So there's no need of an escrow because the transaction itself is from one coin to another. So you have a Chris coin, I have a Stone coin, and we atomic swap it. So that means that rather than you first give me the Chris coin and then I give you back the Stone coin, it's the transaction itself is a transaction, and it happens either it completely happens or it doesn't. So there's no need for an escrow, and there's no need for like trusting me. So that's kind of like how atomic swap works. Atomic swaps are used quite a bit in this smart contract development because you don't want to deal with escrows and what have you. But how an AMM works is that it works on liquidity pools. So say you have an Eric a Stone coin and you want Chris coin. So what you can do is that you can if the liquidity pools exist, so that is a pair of a liquidity pool pairing of stone coins and Chris coins, and the pairing means that the both sides of the pair have the same value within this pool, and people can add liquidity to this pool to be able to make it make the actual the price not to actually sway that much because there's a lot of liquidity in it, and they can actually gain fees from it. But the idea is that you want to actually do the trade. You put in a Chris coin and take out a stone coin into the actual liquidity pool, and then pay a fee for the ability to do that. And that works out because it kind of you're saying that it kind of balances it out based off of the expense of either coin. So it's kind of different where you're not saying, hey, I have a Chris coin and I want somebody to buy this for me from another coin. You're just using a liquidity pool to exchange from one token to the other.
Got it. In gamer
Thank you.
language, it's like simultaneous play or hot seat action.
Sorry, what was that?
In gamer language, it sounds like atomic swaps are like simultaneous gameplay. Like boom, it's done. Like we're both playing at the same exact time. If I use an AMM, it's kind of like it's hot seat, or I take my turn and then you take your turn action.
It's actually I would say the opposite.
Okay.
Like so like in an AMM, there's multiple different types of participants. There's the liquidity provider that all they're doing is they're putting equal amounts of 2 coins into a pool, right? Or equal amounts of value of 2 coins into a pool. And then there's the trader that all they do is they put 1 coin into the pool and take the equal value of the other coin out of the pool, and they pay a fee for that. But there's no orders in place or anything of that sort. You're just using the liquidity pool to be able to actually trade whenever you want, and don't have to necessarily wait for somebody to actually fill your order.
Got it. From a user perspective, an AMM would have slightly higher cost.
I would say that no. I think that they have. I mean, it really depends on the exchange itself and what the actual fees of the liquidity pool are. Because if you think about it, like an order book exchange will have its fees, and then also the AMM would have its own fees. So I wouldn't say one's more than the other. They're just completely different types of exchanges. And Algodex is an order book exchange. Tiny Man is an AMM.
Two different systems effectively accomplishing the same thing, just in different ways.
Right. And our exchange will be an AMM as well.
I seem to remember you saying something about yours being a lot of your coding will be open source. So somebody could copy that and replicate it somewhere else.
Yeah, everything that Reach builds after I think what I decided is like 3 months after we launched the whatever it is that we're launching, starting out with exchange and then hopefully going to stablecoin lending platform. But 3 months after we launch it, we'll open source the actual code base for anybody to take and do their own thing with.
I think it's amazing. We'll help, grow the community.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like the end of the day, we the reason why we're doing this is, number one, to actually help the actual the ecosystem by having these types of applications, but also help the developer ecosystem to inspire into building new cool things.
What's your timeline again for that?
Timelines. So my goal is to actually have our exchange on testnet by the end of September. I mean, that's a very ambitious goal. So the main thing that was actually holding us back from going to production is that because we're actually waiting for AVM 1.0 to be released before we go to production. Because what Reach is going to do, and we're working with the foundation to do this, is we're going to take probably 4 to 6 different applications that are output from Reach and get every one of those audited after AVM 1.0 comes out, so that developers that use Reach can actually trust the Reach output, which will actually make the future auditing and release of applications much quicker. So we're kind of like, we're holding off to actually do a real audit until AVM 1.0 comes out.
Got it. And then audits roughly 6 to 8 weeks time frame, something along those lines.
Yeah. But because we're doing more than that, it might take longer than that, but we'll see.
Very cool.
But like I said, the main thing here is that once the Reach compiler is trusted, audits will be able to be done by more people and much cheaper and faster.
Yeah, that's a great improvement because it seems like it's the most expensive part for developers, right?
Yeah, but it's also one of the most important things when you're trusting lots and lots of money into a contract.
Yeah.
So
you can be solving a really you can be solving a really big issue here, because in terms of like money, because it's hard to create a new application on the blockchain without bringing the money for the audit and the time also it takes to have it audited. I mean, if you can facilitate it with Reach, that's a really good feature. I haven't thought about it.
yeah, I mean, like the real cool thing about auditing with Reach is that it makes a lot of people here probably don't actually know what happens in an audit, but I'll give you like a really high level. It's some really smart people will analyze your code, and they look at it for common mistakes and kind of really think really hard about what your code is doing and make sure that there's no problems. And then they write up in prose a document that says, we've looked at these things. These are actually what we found wrong with it, or we found nothing wrong with it, or these are the warnings I would recommend you take a look at. And it's like a kind of like a report that they create. Now with Reach, when auditors will audit Reach, because of how Reach allows you to drop inline assertions, an auditor will take a look at the code and say, it looks like you are missing this assertion. And in Reach, an assertion is mathematically proven to be guaranteed to be true. So an auditor will say, looks like you missed this assertion in your code. I put this assertion in your code, and it should be there because of this reason. And I reran it and it passed, or it didn't pass, and you need to fix it. The really cool thing about that is that it's a very objective way of improving code and improving the future of code releases as well, because now that assertion is always there. So if you go and modify your code, that assertion has to always be true, or it will never compile. And this will actually make audits, I think, especially like recurring audits, as you actually improve your code, much easier and better as well. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. This is how to bring more ideas into blockchains and developers.
Yeah, I mean the main thing with the Reach is like what makes me really excited about what Reach will do is that our whole belief is that we want to make blockchain safe for creativity. Like if you look on Ethereum, really what developers are doing is they're finding existing smart contracts that are already provably like audited, and they kind of are snapping them together. Because the pain of re-auditing, or the pain of actually changing anything is very great, because blockchain development is hard. So we believe that like that type of development, that template-based development, is very like rigid, and it doesn't allow for much innovation. Now with Reach, what it will allow for is that developers that want to do crazy things, want to do things that have never been done before, it makes those things more possible, because it allows for the creativity to be caught and analyzed by the Reach compiler. And that's where we're really excited to see what developers do when they come in. They start building things that they've never seen before, rather than copying what's already been done in Ethereum. Start building things that like have never been done on Ethereum or haven't been done anywhere. And that's the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, that's what excites me about what Reach is. Especially like you mentioned all these auditing, and you guys kind of like check what the developer does. I think like last week you mentioned, or 2 weeks ago you mentioned how one guy was first time writing a blockchain code. He did it on Reach, and it was great. It was all the checks went through. So I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, what's more exciting is when a developer comes in and never built anything in blockchain and starts building something on Reach, and then Reach doesn't allow them to do something, and they get really upset, and they think that there's a problem with Reach. But a little bit more like somebody steps in and was like, oh, actually, the reason why Reach didn't allow you to do that is because if you did that, there would be a huge hole in your code. And then they go, oh, okay. So like that to me is more exciting. Is like when a developer came in, if Reach didn't exist, they would have actually built something and they would have launched something, but then there would have been a hole in the code, and then there would be a huge issue.
I might have missed it, but Crypto Student became a speaker a little while ago. Was there something you wanted to add in, or a question, or some commentary there?
Hey, thanks for asking. Yeah, so I'm actually not sure how I got added as a speaker. I was sort of just listening, and I've only been involved in this space for about a year now. So I'm sort of the kind of guy that's been sitting on the sidelines, just learning from people like you guys. So it's definitely appreciated greatly. And yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to add. I'm just super impressed with everything you guys have been talking about, and just very interested in this Reach compiler that you were just talking about.
Well, if you want to learn more, there's lots of things online.
Yeah,
Sure.
no, absolutely. I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah, and we've got we actually have somebody that is actually really, really popular in the traditional development world, that is in the process right now of creating videos. So that's they're like, I would say with our documentation, it's very detailed and dense. So we're getting more types of documentation out there, videos and everything of that sort, that are more approachable to beginners, and I'm really excited.
Oh,
about
great.
that.
Okay. And now, sorry, is there a site I can just visit to get a lot more information, or?
Yeah, if you go to, I mean, our website is reach.sh, but if you go to docs.reach.sh, that's where all of our documentation is.
Okay, great. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm gonna look into this later.
Well, I appreciate you looking into it.
And I think the Discord too, pretty active, right? I like to have a look sometimes at the Discord.
Yeah, our Discord is actually very active. And don't go if you're wondering about when number go up. It's not that type of Discord at all. It's very much developers helping developers and answering questions and doing cool stuff like that.
Okay.
These conversations are always fantastic. Unfortunately, I've got to go. I'm going to turn into a Cinderella about 1 minute ago. So I look forward to having another conversation with all this group again in a week.
Thank you, Monty. That's you always bring so much in here, and thank you so much for coming every Sunday. It's awesome, and we love to have you as a co-host. And Chris, thank you so much. always a lot of knowledge and like perspective on things. So.
Yeah, doing my best to share my opinion on things.
Thank you so much, Chris. And Kwame, Jamie, like we want you here more often. You know, we love your input. So please bring it. Should we get back to our weekend, my friends?
I'm gonna get back to my kids, make sure they didn't blow up the house.
Awesome.
So.
Awesome.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Kwame.
You too, Kwame.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Thank